let's yeah, we will try to make it. But in any
Okay,
case,
okay. Cool, man. Cool.
it was a weird one. It was a weird one. Yeah, Springboks versus the All Blacks, 33-16, 17-point gap. The scoreboard, not a true reflection of the game, none whatsoever. I just want to put it out there. Uh, they are going at it again in Cape Town this coming weekend. However, I want to go through what happened over the past weekend. We had an informal chat about it. This is not formal by any means, but we
Yep.
had kind of a conversation post the match. The the feelings are still raw at this stage. The wound is still fresh. The excitement is still fresh as well for the Winters. However, Sunday comes and goes, and then you get the Monday. It's a working day, and there's time to reflect. And what Rassi does better than anyone else, any coach and any sports coach that I follow, is that he, like maybe probably has surpassed Jose Mourinho in that regard, has a way of deflecting the attention away from what has taken place, the players and so forth, and absorbs it himself in such a way that before I go back to the game, right now we're more focused on who might have missed out, who has actually missed out on the current squad. How is Sia Kulisi got? How has he gotten through the training session? Uh, uh, the Monday, which is now, as we are recording, and who is he or Paul de Villiers going to be the final announcement for the game? He mentioned that Ches and Kobe could be there. So what has happened now is they took the loss, but now he has put himself and the Springboks in the driving seat again for the following week. He has now grabbed the narrative. No more Thursday announcements. No more promises to keep quiet during the haka. He's not going to talk about the ref. However, he has taken back the narrative. But 33-16 is not a true reflection of what we saw during the game. For about the first 3 quarters of the game, it looked like a typical Springbok uh, performance, except for the lack of accuracy as far as finishing off their chances is concerned. But I'm going to throw it back to you. 33-16, 5 tries to 1. Take it away, sir.
Okay. Wow. 5 tries to 1. It sounds crazy. For
Yeah,
a team that actually prides themselves now, especially on the D. Um, and for me, it was like I think more the blowout came post frustration. You know, the blowout of the tries came post frustration. However, you mentioned it. If you ain't accurate, if you ain't accurate in converting your opportunities, we are only human. You can only take so much up until your brain flows over, and then and you need some rewards. You need some reward for everything you throw in.
for
Um,
sure.
because let's be honest. Let's be honest. Let's use the first 50 minutes. Uh, the All Blacks forward dominance. They were always on the back foot, always on the back foot, always on the back foot. Yes, they could assert themselves to a certain extent, but as soon as the pressure came, the big hits came there, especially when All Blacks maybe were on attack. Yes, they managed to stretch, but as soon as the game came between the 15 again, that was already then those rucks got blown out. And to get the turnover and then get yourself into the positions of being able to this is where I'm going. I'm in the red zone. I need to capitalize now, and then throwing it away, not necessarily always turning the ball over. Look at how many balls went to deck instead of it was the first pass to start a layer on attack, to build the necessary layer to breach the defense eventually. And that the ball might not have went forward, but now everybody has to fall back again. That in turns means your third or second or fourth ruck after that happens behind the 2 meters behind the gain line where the ball has dropped. So then revert back to kicking, and now you have to start afresh. Then all of those instances, I think, kind of tapped and not getting any reward. Brilliant tactical play of the All Blacks by being able at that last moment strip the ball. Those were crucial moments of the game. And I was like, wow, you know, they can say what they want, but defense or desperate defense at times
Scrambling defense,
win
yeah.
you games. And there it was shown. Not necessarily it won the game there, but it didn't allow the Springboks to pull away, to it, because let's say if of those turnover situations or ball not going to to hand in the pass in the tick on the taking first phase, let's say of those, if 50% went according to plan, there could have been, yes, we can speak now of could have been, but they could definitely have put themselves in better positions to score points, and I think that's where they actually deflated the box. But yes, they came out second half nicely, in my opinion. They still came out, okay, let's go. But just that the fact that it still didn't, the conversion rate, the fact that they still couldn't convert, I think that's what threw us through the All Black, the box onto the ropes. And then the guys coming up, for them to assert themselves and giving that dominance like the starters was never going to happen. They were never meant to assert dominance. They were just meant to, we can now say, just steady the ship and just carry on where we left off. But they had to chase at the end of the day, from my opinion. They had, but the All Blacks, what they do again, with every opportunity they get, the brilliant skill set the All Blacks we all know have. You give them that half a yard, they take a meter. You understand what I'm saying? And that's it. I can't describe it any other way. You give them half a yard, you give them an inch, they take a yard. You give them half a yard, they take a meter. If you give them that meter, they take the whole 100. They cross the line, and that's for me was just the classic display of the All Blacks being able to take their chances where we couldn't. However, they absorbed the pressure, but we just couldn't execute. That's the gist of it, the basic gist of it. But we can go deeper into some other things which was picked up, which is
So
you know, yeah,
look, I look at that performance and I think what would have concerned me from the outside looking in, because if you're on the inside, you know better than what the person on the outside is like you just know better. However, if I'm looking at that game, I'm thinking to myself that first half was what Wellington looked like in that second half in Wellington last year. Uh, if you're seeing Andre Estes and brushing Josh Morby aside and going on to score, you're thinking to yourself, this is from a physicality standpoint and from the bully ball standpoint, this is reminiscent of Wellington last year. However, this is now Wellington without the crisp execution, the flawless execution of skill, efficiency, and just communication, knowing where each person is on the field. As far as the Springboks are concerned, they're just getting there. I mean, they were getting their way as far as meters were concerned, post-contact meters. I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts of exactly how many meters each person got, but I mean, I know that Jasper Wiese
yeah,
was far ahead of everyone else. However, that first half and how Jasper Wiese was so dominant, how every carrier, even Etzebeth, the scrums, everything the Springboks did as far as contact is concerned, not the expansive of contact, that was reminiscent of what Wellington looked like. And the worry now is Cape Town might not and probably will not look like Wellington, because the All Blacks have seen everything that the Boks could have done as far as how they performed last year in Wellington, and they weathered the storm. Now, having said that, Rassie Erasmus, Mzwandile Stick, the Springbok technical team, the Springbok leadership group, the spine of that team, those senior players, those guys have earned the respect, reverence, awe, and the hopes of the South African public and the Springbok supporters as far as the recovery the recovery of this current series. We have seen this before. We saw the Springboks do that to Australia last year, and they actually put points on the board. And Australia came back and put 36 unanswered points in the second half to win that game convincingly last year at Ellis Park. And it looked like something similar happened. Obviously, South Africa was way more resistant, despite the fact that they were making so many mistakes. They were way more resistant, and the All Blacks were far less expansive, even though they had a bit of an upper hand in the second half. that's probably a positive
You
sign as
broke
far
up
as
over
Dave
there.
Rennie is concerned. As far as
You
Dave Rennie is
broke up
concerned,
over
that's probably,
there. I kind of.
did you lose me a bit?
Yep. Carry on.
Okay,
Yes, I
so
lost you, but now, brother.
as far as Dave Rennie is concerned, that's probably a positive sign. The fact that his guys didn't try to be expansive, didn't try to be super rugby about it. They didn't try to be the Hurricanes about it when they seemed to be getting the upper hand. They still kept the game. They kept the game under control. They respected their own inability to physically overpower the Springboks, so they played to their strengths without overplaying their hand. And that's credit to the leadership that's in the team now. That's credit to the buy-in of the players as far as being mature about every decision they made. But in saying that, this is the Springboks. This is a side that has achieved so much over the last 6 or so years. And so a week is a massive amount of time for this team to just psychologically turn things around. It's
Yep.
such a long period of time for them to just turn around and turn psychologically because we know what they've got skill wise. They don't have to do much
Yeah.
differently from it now because everything they did was right. It's just that the ball was on the floor more often than like that it was in the hands of the players who were supposed to do something with it. The ball found its way to the floor. The ball found its way out of the field. 28 minutes of playing time in field. And that's not what everyone expected when Dave Rennie spoke about gaming play, the refs helping the All Blacks keep the pace of the game. Well, guess what? There were so many All Blacks injuries and stoppages, but we're not going to go into that because it happens. It does happen. This is not super rugby. It's not restarts and all of that. This is actual test match rugby, and it's going to be brutal in Cape Town. I don't want to talk about that right now. It's going to be brutal, but um, the All Blacks have got another assignment. They've got to face the Lions, and and it's so to be a fly on the wall in that meeting where the decision would have been made. Do we promote one of Patrick Tuipulotu or Sam Derry for the second game in Cape Town, or do we move Patrick Tupovai back to lock, which would, in my opinion, be a mistake? Or do we play one of these guys only one half versus the Lions, pull them out in order for them to deputize or to be the second lock on Saturday, where they probably will be faced, they not definitely will not be facing the extra challenge of altitude. It probably will not even be as warm as what Joburg was because it's predicted that Cape Town might be a bit wet on Saturday. So it might be one of those slow games again. We do not know. The All Blacks are very good at playing in wet conditions as well. But they will be facing a reasonably strong Lion side because 2 or 3 of those players were in Russia's squad. Van Horn, Bato, Shegani, and Buon Fenta. They've gone back to the Lions.
Yeah.
They'll be part of the camp now. They'll be facing the All Blacks tomorrow. Buon Fenta will be coming off the bench. But it's very, very interesting because 3 or 4 next players who should be in that squad on Saturday will be involved in the Lions game. What's your take on what the All Blacks actually benefit from that game this coming tomorrow? Actually,
Okay. Tomorrow. Okay. I think. I actually think, my personal opinion, it like going back to the Bulls one also. I kind of think those guys, their aim was to get some data, in my opinion, to start with data to which they can obviously relay back to the Springboks team. Because the DNA of New Zealand rugby, they didn't change from the midweek games to even till Saturday, in the first test. They didn't change much. The as we know, get around or attack the blind side with a skillful loose forward that in the form of Tupovai, just get free the arms and pass to and get the ball to someone fast on the inside, whether it is Cam Roigard or like it was Josh Morby. So those things are not going to change much, but I think more those guys are going to be able to be forced. or to gather some data on where to maybe technically attack the All Blacks or try to exploit the All Blacks, and that's it. But not that it's so much more that they can do. And also, I don't also think there's going to be a big change in the system with all the casualties that has been happening also with all the casualties. So I think those. Oh, the last one is go and make a statement. Show to me why you should still be within the system. Go and try and make a statement whether it is now physicality or try and dictate them with your boot technically in the form of Q and on. One Venter, go and, kniesplekke, bruise up the second and third and, bruise up there if you can. They shouldn't be properly priming the main team for Saturday. They shouldn't be able to properly prime the main team for Saturday. You know, that is the grunt part of it. But that's the grunt part of it, but also probably to give the Lions at least some sort of a fighting chance to show sort of resistance to to force the hand of the All Blacks to play to their shape, their attacking shape. That's what I see based on tomorrow. What I assume can happen tomorrow. Um, coming back to set this coming Saturday, which you also touched on. That game is, I think, is going to be orthodox, textbook, test rugby. What the Springboks is going to play, and it's one of those things. Having Polly there, it's percentage rugby. It's going to be the order of the day. You can now percentage. Are you still there?
Yep, yep,
Are you there?
yeah.
I said
I'm here.
percentage rugby will be the order of the day. Um, where I feel like where maybe the guys of this where session maybe overplayed it a bit. Paul is going
Yeah,
to continuously
it,
try and turn the guys around. And the one thing we know is All Blacks guys don't normally have the biggest of kicking boots, kicking foot. So if they pin in within the 5 yards, within the 5 meters of the touch line, either side, um, and then hard press on the defense, forcing them to exit the ball and then put up set piece from there. So I think that's going to be the order of the day to get yourself consistently within the striking zone to apply some sort of pressure, whether it is set piece, midfield carrying, or even if it allows and there's fluidity. Is that the word? There's fluency to get to get the
fluidity.
ball wide. That's a word, yeah, yeah. Not enough sunlight, not enough sunlight. But so so yes, let's be frank about it. In Cape Town, you can't kick so far and so easily like people would kick, and like the likes of what's his name, like the 50-22. What's his name, man? Quintupaya.
Jordy Barry or
Quintupaya,
just
you like no
Quintupaya.
Quintupaya got the 50-20 50-22. In Cape Town, the ball won't fly like that from the
No,
boot. So I think percentage rugby on Saturday is going to be the order of the day. And the team that get to exit better from their half will be the team that will able to, whether it is on defense or attack, assert themselves to apply pressure. That's how I see it. That's my take on it.
if I can start off with your conclusion now to your now just made statement, with the exits and the kicking, because like we just pointed out, the weather prediction is that Cape Town there might be inclement weather in Cape Town, so this could be Wellington roundabout in June, May June. This is not Wellington weather. Then we're now talking regard Ruben Love and Jordy Barrett. Again, I reiterate and I emphasize, it's not super rugby level. There's far less space in the core in this cauldron that we know as Test match rugby in Cape Town DHL, with the rampant Springbok side that is hell bent on on revenge. I don't care what they say about Rassi, Mr. Cool, calm and collected. That guy does not like he does not like being questioned. He does not like, despite all of his pedigree as an international coach, he does not like the idea that there might be a doubt as to whether or not he did well. He admitted that he made a few mistakes. He's a human being. Uh, we watched him make one where he could have moved pieces around, and instead he brought uh, Andre the Giant. But nonetheless, that's done. That's gone. So I think that the All Blacks will feel hard done by your statement where you say that the kicking and the exits will not be as easy in Cape Town as they are in Pretoria, Johannesburg at altitude, how in the high felt rather. But then, having said that, the same rings through for both sides. But then, if you look at the All Blacks, it comes from Roygard, Love, Geordie, Damian McKenzie. Those are your four primary guys who can kick, uh, who can exit. If Will Jordan was caught in Ireland, he can exit. Now, I'm not saying that they've got the same boot as far as academics are concerned as Andre Pollard. That guy's got an educated boot. He has been there for a very, very long time. But if you're sitting there in camp with Rico Ioane and then you're asking him, how did you guys get Andre Pollard off his game so easily in the URC final? He'll probably give you two answers. The one is bad day at the office. It happens to everyone. Second one being if you apply enough pressure on him, because he's not as elusive as Sasha Farmer Ngomezulu or Manu Pop for that matter. He's not as mobile or elusive. He can capitulate. He can fall apart. We've seen Andre Pollard kick it out of the full when he's not supposed to. We've seen him attempt we've seen him kick it dead a couple of times when he's under pressure. So that's the thing about him. This is an older Andre Pollard who can be expected to slot in any kick that the Springboks require him to slot in as far as the 3 points are concerned or conversions are concerned. That is a given. He is not going to overplay his hand. He'll probably use Damien Delende far more than what Sasha Farmer would have wanted to use. He'll get his forwards involved far more than, especially short balls to his forwards. Whereas Viaspa Viste was way more isolated. As good as he was far more isolated in Ellis Park, where in Cape Town with Andre Pollard steering the ship with Kobus Reinach on his inside, they'll probably play fast water balls where guys are going in pairs. Guys are going in pairs or going as 3-man pods. The ball is
Mm.
going to the boom. It's a 3-man pod ABC. The guys are going in tandem, or they're going as a trio. Boom, 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 hitting and trying to dent that All Blacks ball that we saw is not so willing to stand firm in front of that barrage from the All Blacks, from the Springbok pack. So that is a plus for the Springboks because they've got that in their arsenal. They've got that. They were running they were not running as duos. They were not running in tandem. They were running isolated. They were isolated runners in Johannesburg. So, and they were still effective, by the way. But you could see that it was not pick and drive. How many pick and drive did you actually see in Johannesburg where they tried to did that? Not many. Not many pick and goes. Yeah. So it was so it was very, very isolating. I was, it felt like a weird performance because the Springboks had the upper hand, but the execution of basics and fundamentals, it was just absent. So I think in Cape Town they've got that going for them. But the thing is now, none of the two sides are going to let up as far as fatigue is concerned, because in Cape Town, both sides will feel like they've grown an extra length. But if the weather is inclement, expect the ball on the floor far more often than expected, because if the ball is wet, the aerial attack will be a 50-50. Both sides will be gambling in that regard because it will be 50-50. No matter how good Damian Phillips is, we haven't seen South Africa thrive in those conditions. You saw it versus England in the World Cup semi-final, and we never saw it
Yep.
playing those. So we don't know what might happen. It'll just be a game of accuracy. Now, The All Blacks are not England. They are far more capable of running the ball and still playing their normal game in those conditions. Far more capable with the weapons that they're trying, especially decision makers like Damien McKenzie and Jordy Barrett, including Ruben Love and Cam Roygard. So again, it'll be the set piece. With the All Blacks aiming to get parity in those scrums and that more. Are they as confident as they actually should be that George Bauer starting maybe might feel like I've got this compared to what an injured or hobbled Ethan de Groot uh performed versus Walker because he was hobbled and we found out now that the guy could hardly stand none of those scrum versus a world class scrummager like Walker. My opinion, if you're going to start George Bauer, rather start him with Fletcher Newell and get that Crusaders front row going, short front row, and then get the Hurricanes front row going in the second half. But that's neither here or there, but that's my opinion. Between the two games, I think the one coach which the rest of the feeling like did not need to change much. I had it going for 3 quarters. The ref got one or two things wrong that changed the game completely. But it took a world class performance from a world class team to actually take advantage of those mistakes by the ref because a Scotland, an Ireland, or a Wales would not have done anything with what Matthew Carney did right or wrong in that game. So I'm just going to be now throwing back to you. If you're Dave Rennie, how are you feeling about this situation? You've picked your team for the Lions. Now you're going to Saturday. How are you feeling? How are you putting your team together and how are you approaching that game with what I've just now thrown your way?
Yeah. Okay, if I'm Dave Rennie. Whew. Okay. Okay. First things first. They say lightning don't strike twice. What is it? In the same place. Is that they're saying? Nah? First things first. They know, regardless of the conditions that they're gonna be presented with, the same type of errors won't be, and the same type of errors and the same type of lackluster performances won't happen twice in a row from a forward pack like South Africa, like the Springboks. So you will definitely, to start with, up front, you will definitely have to either decide, you know what, let me pull the trigger, as you just mentioned, get the guys get the guys who initially got parity in the second half, start them, get them started, so that you don't force. You can, okay, not so that you don't force, so that they can at least get parity, so that the momentum can be created from the likes of Cam Roygard and the rest. As we know what they do, they just need a stable base, and then from there they can do their magic. So how, and then basically from there get that sorted, so that you know for a fact that you don't have to absorb pressure the whole time. You can assert yourself, because as soon as you can assert yourself, you force the opposition, as we saw po- post 55 minutes. Post 55 minutes of the game, when they just got parity, they could start to assert themselves in the test match, regard be, simply by just having parity only at scrum time, because lineout still was a bit iffy, but
Yeah.
the foundation where because the foundation where they got challenged the most and penalized the most, they could steady the ship there, and that's when the guys like Jordy, Quinn, and Will Jordan can come into their own, because they could focus on going forward instead of having to wonder, am I going back first before I can go forward? So I was just thinking, his thing, I would say, get the guys that steady the ship, start with them, bottom line. However, that's now again the other flip side of the coin. Um, you see the team Rashi um chose again. It's now like, okay, prior to the one that was playing on Saturday.
Yeah.
A guy like Zachary Porthen was never meant to come and overpower you,
No.
or at least have some sort of a dominance to a certain extent. He was never picked for that. Whereas he now went to choose a guy like Thomas the Tank, to choose him in the tight end replacement. Gerard Steenekamp, I don't think he done that bad, in my
No, no.
opinion. Yes, he got ping. I don't think he done that bad. That was one scrum where, and I actually think, come I tell you what
Just
happened.
Marshall.
My opinion. Yes, come I tell you what. We are so used to our tight head get a dominant hit on the opposition loose head, which by default, if if our loose head then just come through, he goes forward. But Zachary Porthen was power. They struck in, and then Zachary couldn't get a dominant hit on Bauer. So, what does that then mean? When he tries to go forward, he wheel around. That makes sense to me. At that specific point in time, we didn't get the positive hit on the time. Not that it's wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. We just didn't get the positive hit, meaning the timing was then off for the second shot. So the second shot didn't come straight. It went, it wheeled around. So, and then the other thing is the choice of having a likes of a Luet on the bench will now let, but I don't think, to be honest, I don't think Luet is high enough in numbers in minutes for the, that's my opinion. But I think he can give line out security at least. He can give line out security for, let's say, 20 minutes. If he gets a 20 minutes I think he will just get 20. So coming back to the thing, you need to choose a forward pack that will at least get you parity. And who has done that? That front row of that came off from the bench. That was the answer. Bottom line. That's the answer because they done it with the lock pairing that was on the field. So that is the, I just think if he doesn't go that route, maybe Cody Taylor,
Yeah.
but
Has to.
because maybe,
Has to.
yes, maybe I think Cody Taylor with those two, and they would at least get parity at scrum time. Because what's that short monster? Woo,
Asafo.
Asafa.
Asafo.
Wow, my man. Na, na,
Kevin Williamu.
na, na, na,
The Kevin
na,
Williamu.
I wanted to say that. I wanted to say that he gave me Kevin Lamu vibes. I was like, damn it, damn it. But anyway, so I'm not gonna say he is not a starter in my opinion. I think he is ideal for coming off the bench as a hooker
Yeah.
to come and ensure you bring that scrummaging force from a hooker perspective. You know, just to just support whoever is the props on the field. But he's definitely he brought so much stability and abrasiveness. He brought a lot of abrasiveness in the physicality.
3 or 4 years ago, you could bring Malcolm Marx and Stephen Kitsoff off the bench, and they did. They came off the bench more often than they started, but you could not find more than one or two loose heads and hookers respectively who were better than them in the world. And Malcolm Marx was a top hooker in the world at that stage already.
Sorry. Please repeat that. Please repeat that, my brother. You broke up a bit.
3 or 4 years ago, you could bring Stephen Kitsoff and Malcolm Marx off the bench for the Springboks, and both players in their respective rights were either the number one or number two in the world at their trade, despite the fact that they were coming
Yep.
from Springboks. So they bucked the trend of you've got to start for your team. In fact, they played more minutes than the starters because they could come on in the 36th minute, 35th minute, and they could play the whole second half, having played the 5 minutes of the first half. So they bucked the trend. So it doesn't matter. So with Asafa Abua, it's not a matter of at this point in time, Cody Taylor is a better athlete or a better player. I just think that Cody Taylor is a better overall package in the sense that he understands situations better than maybe an Asafa Moore would understand a situation. Cody Taylor knows when to
Yes.
strike. He knows for certain things. He knows how to talk to the ref. He knows small tricks. He's been there over 100 times, and for
Yep.
so he understands certain things. So you want that guy on the field, and it's not like he's short of talent either. So Asafa Moore is a finished product at this point as far as athleticism is concerned. Kevin Williamu, from the middle stages up to his record-breaking, appearance, final appearance for the All Blacks in 2015, he came off the bench and he lost none of his aura. He lost none of the respect in the change room or around the world, for that matter, as far as rugby was concerned. He lost none of that, and he
Yep.
was coming off the bench. So, so for me, I'm glad the All Blacks are finally understanding that the bench is not where players go to die. It's an essential part of an 80-minute performance. And I'm so glad because under the previous regime, Razor Robertson, you kind of got the sense that this guy dropped. Like, no, he's on the bench. It's still a very important part of the game. He's a vital
Yeah.
component in what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
The All that fans, pundits, podcasters in New Zealand, they had this mindset of they had like this high school mindset where if your jersey is anything but the XV, like the XV on the bag, you were kind of like an afterthought. And so right now, you've got this situation in the All Blacks where Patrick Tuipolotu is so valuable coming off the bench. It's a massive debate. Like when he comes off the bench, he's more effective than when he starts. So Asafa Moore is that type of player for them. Whether he comes on for his first minute or he comes on there's been situations where he came on in the first half and to finish a game, and he was versus Ireland. He came on very early and he finished that game, and he was highly effective. So he lost one. Well, he threw one ball and they lost it. Then the second one was a fumble by the jumpers. But then again, you need to put him back out there for him to find his feet and get the confidence in his system that listen, I can do this versus the very best in the world. Physically, he's all there. He's not going to give. He's not going to give an inch. You saw the dominant tackle starting to come into the All Blacks game when he came in. He was hitting people and driving them back. He's going to be blown for one or two illegal tackles. That's his game. But he's a highly physical player. And for me, I would keep him on the bench with his Hurricanes comrades. So for me, Xavier Numia, if he's fully fit and he's gone over his Achilles, he needs to be on the bench with Taro Lomax and the Safa Moore, in my opinion, because you've got to get that balance in that scrum in the first half, that height, that low center of gravity, guys having their
Yep.
feet under their torso and pushing that scrum in the first half and getting. Look, we're not. If I'm the All Blacks, I'm not looking to drive the Springbok scrum back. I'm just looking for them to get the ball out and play it. Get the ball out and play it.
Yep.
Get the ref to blow his hair dryer and Thomas Reiner play that ball, because that's where the Springboks will not be feeling at home when they are constantly asked to play it, whereas they're used to a set piece following a scrum. Set pieces, they're used to a penalty where they go to the next set piece, the next set piece, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And that's
Yep.
their bread and butter. So when you're forcing them to play, and then the defense is good enough to hold that back line back, or you're good enough to just hold Wilbers Vicent a lot and then stop him from rampaging and denting your line the whole time where he's getting the ball from the base of the scrum and you immediately in his face. That for me, you've won half the battle as far as the set piece and the physical battle is concerned. Dave Rennie has got to get the troops to buy into that idea. You're not going to be able to stop all the rolling malls. You've got to find tricks to. You've got to find tricks for them to make mistakes within the mall, as we saw with Jordy Barrett in the very last second with Malcolm Marx. You've got to find those tricks. That's why, for me personally, having a Rico Ioane on the bench for those last ditch tackles, getting the man, they're so good. The All Blacks at killing the ball over their own try line where it's held up. Such things, they've got to win those battles because it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be Hurricanes rugby. They're not going to run away with the game. If they do, it'll simply mean that the tide has turned for going to next year. I don't care how many more games are left in the series now. If in Cape Town, the All Blacks put more than 10 points on the Springboks at the end of the game, then the tide is, for me, is completely turned. It's time to maybe start considering new faces in the Springbok setup moving forward. However, we're not there yet. But if I'm Dave Rennie, without mentioning any other thing, keep it the way you kept it, but you've got to get parity in those scrums, and you've got to put in one or two more dominant tackles, and you've got to force the Springboks to play. Force them to play
Yeah.
to Pollard, opposed to them denting your line with their tight five and getting through your defensive wall. Because at some point they're going to start getting the offload game to putting that together, and it's going to be very difficult to stop it.
Now, that thing you say there, that thing you say, is so true, you know. Like you say, especially let's use the whole scoring thing now. It's the turning of the tide. If that happens on a serious note, then there's gonna have to be serious introspection and reflection to be done. Where have we lost the plot? Well, not lost
Yep.
the plot so much because we mentioned it. Defense win you games, you know. And
Yeah.
the 2019 to 2023, our defense has been something that it is our the
Phenomenal.
cornerstone of
Phenomenal.
the system. It has been the cornerstone of the system, and I think that is the thing that is the thing that we kind of not lack. I'm not saying we don't lack that. I'm not saying we will lack it. It is just as if it has become back burner. It has been went to the back burner because we kind of had this focus of trying to make it entertaining to the detriment, to the expense of defense. I don't know if it makes sense what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense, but I kind of think
Makes
we will
perfect sense.
literally
Makes
have to
perfect
go
sense.
back and say, "Hey, guys, we have to go back. We have to circle back to the thing that won us World Cups and got us to where we are, and start prioritizing that again before we want to expand even further on running the ball so much. You know, that's definitely the thing. And the other thing is we're gonna have to start. Yes, Pollard is Mr. Reliable, Mr. You can tell him anytime, listen, yeah, we need you, come and do this. Fine. But we're gonna have to get players inside, players in the especially in the back line, decision makers that is willing to create something. And not just one, two. We must have there must be a backline, there must be a number of decision makers because look at let's be honest, look at what's happening within the All Black system at the moment. I think you mentioned it. I think you mentioned it earlier about the kicking. If the ball shift two passes, they both look up to be able to make
It's a
a
place. Yeah.
to make a kick, to get to find some space because to find some space for with the boot, you know, we're gonna have to start doing that. Because if we don't do that, we're gonna just end up going the same way, and people will just be okay if the ball goes from if it goes to Jesse, it's not it's gonna be we can go and make the tackle there at the end. We can be sure we go and make the tackle at the end and contest the second breakdown from there again. And that's probably where we can blast the breakdown and then maybe even win the ball. Whereas the decision makers, there's gonna have the guys that say, "Oh, I'm becoming a decision maker," and play the ball and play what is in front of me. There's definitely something that's gonna have to be looked at. When I say looked at, they're gonna have to decide. Listen, yeah, we buy into this, or let's go back to the boringness. Let's go back to the boring, and then go and button up again, tighten up again our defense, which has kind of become an optional thing right now instead of a priority. You know,
Must.
because that's the one thing that's the one thing that I hated that I actually hate seeing that our defense is so much an optional thing.
It's a bit
But
leaky, but
the other thing is But the other thing that I don't like is the fact that when the frustration kicks in, it's as if now the guys, common sense go out by the door, and now discipline creeps in. But I guess that's the effects of pressure. That's the effects of pressure. But that's also a telltale that you haven't been placed under that amount of pressure in, let's say,
In a
recent
while.
times. You know,
Yeah, in a while.
or in a while, you haven't experienced that type of pressure, and those were is just glimpses. Now, what if that pressure happens, frequently? Then it's gonna become, oh, are we going? Is the wheels gonna fall apart? So I just think back to basics. Make sure defense is not an optional thing part of the game, but a priority function part of the game. That's the thing.
As for us to conclude, from my closing statement of self as we conclude, uh, from my side, the reason I feel like the All Blacks will be in the game as much as the Springboks will come out with, like fire and brimstone. These guys will be frothing in the mouth at the mouth, and trying to reach into the All Blacks' chest to snatch their souls. And I believe that with all my heart. However, the one thing that makes the All Blacks dangerous before a single ball has been kicked or thrown or whatsoever, before they even go for the national anthems and the haka, one thing that makes this All Blacks team dangerous is that now they are in an unprecedented situation or circumstance outside of World Cups. Because usually in a World Cup, you've got the quarterfinal, the most important game in the last 4 years. You've got the semi-final, the most important game again. Then you've got the final. So now, a week away from winning against the world champions, the All Blacks are playing perhaps outside of the World Cup, within a World Cup cycle. This is their most important game again. The last time this happened outside of the World Cup cycle was when they were trying to save Ian Foster's job at Ellis Park in 2022,
Yep.
after getting a lashing in Bombela. And now we're back at it again where Ardie Savea and his troops are playing perhaps his most important game outside of a World Cup final, because they already played their so-called most important game this World Cup cycle this past week. Now they're going into the most important, because now they're going to prove that this was no fluke. They can play back-to-back good games. Dave Rennie has an actual plan. They have an actual plan B within in their sleeves, and they actually have depth within their squad. So there's a lot that they're playing for right now. And like I said in one of my videos on my other platforms, the winner of the first person to get 2 wins out of 3 will be the guy that says, I don't count Baltimore. But the guy that's
That
lagging
will be
behind will
what?
say, the guy that's first to get you 2 wins within this 3-week period, meaning by the time the whistle blows at Soccer City, or sorry, FNB Stadium
F
next
and
week,
B. If
the third game, the one that's leading by then will probably say, I've won this series, because the traditional tour is 3 test matches, which is like the Lions tour. But the one that's losing will probably say, listen, buddy, we still have Baltimore. Let's not do this. So to me, this coming weekend is probably the most important test match for both sides outside of a World Cup. And the World Cup is only
yeah,
next year. We don't know what's going to happen. But these two are going to go at it, and the Springboks are going to be all fire and brimstone, and they're going to be like Freddy Krueger with their claws and sharp claws, and trying to tear a hole into the chest of those All Blacks and ripping their hearts out from the first whistle. And I hope that they're not so overzealous that they make mistakes. Because the one thing that worked in their favor in Wellington is those youngsters had nothing to lose.
Visa, come,
And
come, I
now,
tell you. I know they say there's your closing statement. Come, I tell you this. Like I was last week, I am very wary of this new All Blacks era. And I'm honest when I say that. I'm I am just honest. I'm very wary of this new All Blacks era to start with. Because I said it's as if they got the mana back, you know. Um and when an All Blacks team play with that energy, it's like they just always elevate to a next level where, people can just be like, we were now here. No, 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 gents. We are here. So there's gonna have to be a balance from the boys. There's gonna have to be a balance from the boys. You can't just think you're gonna come in and out muscle or out. No. Technically, All Blacks is having a home match. You know that. Now, technically, the All Blacks is having a home game this
It's
coming
not as
week.
much, but I understand. I understand what you mean. Not as much as it used to be, but I
But
understand what you mean.
so so uh, and and the one thing is also that those guys want to restore the pride that has been within the All Blacks, which has been lost kind of in the last, can I man say, 3 years from the All Blacks jersey. They are very very adamantly wanting to restore that pride, and we can't take that away from you. So that's something that we have to be very wary about. And I'm not gonna say that I'm confident in my boys, but an All Black team that is playing for a purpose is a dangerous All Black team. That I
Touche.
will admit very, very first. I will be the first to an All Blacks team that play for a purpose, as we saw with Fozzy, uh, and as we saw at Eden Park, this 100th test. When there's a
Sure.
serious purpose, when there's a
That's a great
serious
point.
purpose, and that I cannot commend them enough for that. An All Blacks team that play with purpose is a very dangerous All Black side. Very dangerous. So yeah, this is gonna be a fun week. This is gonna be an interesting week. Let's see because I just to dial down a bit because I see the selections of this tomorrow's game. You can see there are people that they really want to have fit for the coming weekend. You can
Yeah.
like like the what is the Numia? I see he's not in the team. I'm not sure if he's
Yeah.
injured. He's not playing.
We
He's
need.
not.
Yeah. Look,
I'm
I'm
not
not
sure.
sure what's going on around. Yeah, it's a pity. It's a pity. I'm not sure what's going on around him, but it's a pity. It's a huge pity because he's a fantastic player. He's not the biggest. He's like a 2000 and he's like a 2020 or yeah 2020 version of Ox. He's not the biggest, but there's not much of him to be intimidated because it's like a ball of fire. Like he just comes and he keeps coming and keeps
Okay.
done well coming to you recently. So I
Yep.
was excited to see him. I was excited for a lot of people who don't watch Super Rugby to see him. But it's a pity. I hope we see him on Saturday.
So I don't. But on the other hand, also based on and Pluto that's playing again. Sam Derry also playing. I think I'm not in Rennie's book or in his diary. I think Tupova is gonna play lock this week. I don't know if you would reason. I think they're gonna move him to lock this week, and
And
then
they'll be losing an opportunity actually to turn that guy. Look, I don't want to go into detail because, like I said, we're concluding. But Courtney Laws and Peter Steph Toy concluded 2023 as the two best blindside flankers in the world. And number three, a close number three, close one between number 2 and 3 would have been Shannon Frizzell. And the other two
yeah,
were known as they were world class locks at the stage. They were world class locks, and it took a while for people to get used to the idea that Peter Steph is a world class flanker. I mean, everyone went after him. Like Rassi did not birth the switch of Peter Steph from a lock to a flank. People might think it was Rassi, but it was during the Rassi era where he became player of the year material year after year after year. And the
yeah,
same with Courtney Laws. He was a world class lock, and people took a while to get used to his conversion to a flank. The same with Tech Byrne. There's still a lot of skepticism as to whether or not he can be a good blindside. Tupovai is a super freak of an athlete. They missed the boat with Scott Barrett, where the two legendary locks were still there, and they wanted to kind of post Jerome Kano making out to be a flank, and they missed the boat. And right now, they might miss the same opportunity with Tupovai. Whether or not he wants to remain a world-class right side, he can be. So for me, leave him there. You've picked 2 or 3 other locks. One is injured. You've brought Kenyakana in. Play Patrick Tuipolotu alongside the young Fabian Holland on Saturday and have Sam. If you don't want a lock on the bench, you can go with Simon Parker again for those lineouts. Personally, I wish they would leave Tupovai at flank. He was absolutely superb on Saturday.
I'm chewing my nails if Puluto comes in as but anyway, brother, my man. To be, I'm not gonna lie. I'm chewing my nails. I'm chewing my nails. I'm chewing my nails if that happened. But we both know the Bok response is gonna be guys throwing themselves brutally at whatever. It's gonna be the classic Bok response of I know for a fact, as we said, an All Blacks team that play with purpose is a very dangerous All Blacks team. So let's wait and see what Dave Rennie is dishing up. What team is he putting on the menu? You know, what team is he putting on the menu? But all I can see is a tactical and a textbook test match is coming up this week. Not unnecessary fancy stuff. I think a tactical and very textbook test match.
Thanos
My brother. Thanks for another lekker chat again. Ay. Hey, yo. My man. We didn't even speak about Sia. We didn't.
Let's save it for the fun. That's why I'm saying we don't know whether him or Paul are going to be selected. But Thursday, the All Blacks will be probably selecting their squad for Saturday. We can talk about it on Thursday, my buddy. Let's end it right there. Let's save it. And thank you so much for your time, Errol. Say hi to the wife for me, buddy, and have a great one, man.
We'll do so. Greetings to the family. Always nice speaking to you, my brother.
Thank you, brother.
Shevsky signing off. Bye.